Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, 33, female, and I have been married to my husband Sebastian, 34, male, for the past 7 years. We have had a good relationship and a good marriage, but now it seems like everything is coming to an end. Let me tell you from the start. So, my husband has had this female best friend named Alicia, 34, female. They were in high school and dated for a year. Then they realized that they were better as friends and continued to stay as friends. Now, Alicia was a typical pick-me girl that you can expect. I hated hanging out with her. Alicia was one of those girls who always had to be the center of attention, and she definitely enjoyed putting me down to make herself look better. I remember the first time I met her, she gave me this look up and down like she was sizing me up. Then she made some comments about how she was so glad my husband had finally found someone and how she was glad that she didn't have to marry him anymore. It felt so weird, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just being sensitive. But as time went on, it became pretty clear that she had it out for me. There was this one time we were all out for dinner and she started talking about how she and my husband used to go on these adventures together. She went on and on about this camping trip they took where they got lost and had to rely on each other for survival. She made it sound like some epic romance, and I just sat there feeling like a third wheel. Then there was the time we were at a party and Alicia decided to tell everyone about how my husband used to have this huge crush on her back in high school. She laughed about it, saying how he was always trying to impress her and how she thought it was cute. I could see my husband squirming in his seat, clearly uncomfortable, but Alicia just kept going on. It was like she wanted to remind everyone, especially me, that she was his first love or something. The worst, though, was probably last Christmas. We were all at my in-laws' house and Alicia had come over with this elaborate homemade pie. She kept going on about how she learned to make it from scratch and how it was my husband's favorite. When I mentioned that I had baked cookies for the occasion, she gave me this pitying look and said, "Oh, that's sweet. I'm sure your cookies are delicious too." Now, I know it doesn't sound so mean, but the way she said it was so bitchy and condescending, I could have screamed. To make matters worse, my husband didn't seem to see how awful she was. He insisted that she was just being friendly and that I was overreacting. He kept reminding me that they have a lot of history and that she meant no harm. But it felt like every time we were around her, she was trying to undermine me and make me feel small. I tried talking to my husband about it, but it always turned into a fight. He got defensive, saying that Alicia was just his friend and that I was being paranoid. It's like he couldn't see how toxic she is, and it made me feel like I'm the crazy one. I even considered trying to distance myself from her, but it was hard because she was such a big part of my husband's life. However, the problem was that Sebastian had known Alicia for a long time, and even his family was quite fond of her, so it was very difficult for me to share this with him. The one time I did, he told me that she was just a friend and that I was just being insecure. However, I started to notice how Sebastian's mom, Regina, 66, female, acted towards Alicia and me. She always tried to compare us and preferred Alicia over me. I will admit that I felt pretty bad because of this. For instance, Regina would always invite Alicia to family dinners without consulting me first. She'd call Alicia practically family, which felt like a slap in the face. At one of these dinners, Regina went on and on about how Alicia had such a natural talent for cooking, while subtly implying that my cooking was just okay. She even asked Alicia for her recipe for a dish that I had made, as if Alicia's version would automatically be better. Another time, during a family gathering, Regina made a comment about how lucky Sebastian was to have two such beautiful and talented women in his life. But then she added, looking at Alicia, some people just have that natural charm and grace. It was clear who she was talking about, and it wasn't me. It felt like Regina was always finding ways to highlight Alicia's supposed superiority. Despite all of this, I loved Sebastian a lot, and I tried my best to get over it. I even tried to hang out with Alicia more and get to know more about her, thinking maybe if we became friends, it would make things easier. There was one time we went shopping together and I tried to make an effort to bond with her, but it ended with her making passive-aggressive comments about my fashion sense. She said things like, "Oh, that's cute. It's nice that you don't feel the need to follow trends," while she picked out the latest styles for herself. I realized that I didn't need to be friends with her just because she was friends with my husband. It became clear that trying to get closer to her was just making me miserable. Every interaction with her felt like a competition, one that I hadn't signed up for and didn't want to be a part of. I decided to distance myself from Alicia and focus on my own well-being. It wasn't easy, especially because of how intertwined she was with Sebastian's life and family. But I knew I had to do what was best for my mental health. I started finding excuses to avoid gatherings where Alicia would be present and made an effort to plan activities with Sebastian that didn't involve her. A few years ago, when I was pregnant with my son, Jamie, 7, male, I was really looking forward to starting this new life with my new family. However, the day I went into labor, I couldn't reach Sebastian. I had to call my best friend who took me to the hospital and was in the delivery room with me. Sebastian came to the hospital 5 hours after Jamie was delivered. When I asked him where he was, he told me Alicia's marriage had just ended and he was consoling her. I was furious. I did feel bad about her marriage ending, but I needed him, and he had picked her over me and our baby. I told him that he could not see the baby until he broke everything off with Alicia and swore on Jamie that he would never see her again. He started arguing with me, saying that I was being hormonal and acting like a brat, and that Alicia was his best friend and he couldn't just cut her out of his life. I told him that he could then cut me and his son off. After a lot of arguing, he promised me that he would never see her again. I also made him promise me that I would never have to see her again, and that if his parents wanted to see Alicia, they could see her, but not mention it to me. Also, to never invite her to family events when I was coming. To be honest, I didn't feel entirely good about giving him that ultimatum, but I was at my breaking point. It wasn't just about that one incident, but years of feeling second place to Alicia. I knew it was drastic, but I needed him to understand how serious I was about this. After Jamie was born, I thought things would get better, and for a while they did. Sebastian kept his promise, and Alicia was no longer a looming presence in our lives. It felt like a weight had been lifted. Regina wasn't too happy about it at first, but she eventually came around when she saw how happy Sebastian and I were. Family events became less stressful, and I started to feel more at ease. Despite this improvement, there were moments when the past would creep up. For instance, one evening, Regina made a comment about how she missed Alicia's baking during Christmas. I had to remind myself to breathe and let it go. It was clear that Alicia still had a place in their hearts, and while it stung, I understood that years of friendship and family ties don't just disappear. There was also the time when Sebastian's old friend group had a reunion. They wanted to invite Alicia, and Sebastian had to explain the situation to them. It was awkward, and I could see it pained him to exclude her. But he did it for our family. Another challenge was rebuilding trust. The incident during Jamie's birth had left a scar. There were times when I would wonder if he resented me for making him choose, and I had to work through those insecurities. Counseling helped us a lot during this period. We learned to communicate better, and Sebastian started to see things from my perspective. He realized how much his prioritizing Alicia had hurt me over the years. Everything was going well, and a few years passed after that. I honestly thought that this was all behind me and that I didn't have to worry about this ever. Since my son has grown up now, sometimes I ask my mother-in-law, Regina, to babysit, especially during the hours I work. It's only for a few hours every day at a time and sometimes on weekends. However, ever since she started babysitting my son, I have noticed that Jamie's attitude towards me has changed completely. He is no longer the sweet son who loved to hug me whenever he saw me. Now he throws tantrums and seems so different. For example, Jamie used to be excited when I came home from work, running to give me a big hug. Now he barely acknowledges me and sometimes even refuses to talk to me. He used to love our bedtime stories, but now he insists that Grandma tells better stories and doesn't want me to read to him anymore. It's heartbreaking. I've also noticed that Jamie has started saying things that sound suspiciously like Regina's opinions. He'll say things like, "Grandma says you should spend more time with me," or "Grandma makes the best food, not you." It's like he's parroting what she says. And it makes me wonder what she's telling him when I'm not around. One time we were out shopping and Jamie threw a massive fit because I wouldn't buy him a specific toy. He screamed, "Grandma would get it for me." It was so embarrassing and out of character for him. He never used to behave like that. When I tried to explain why he couldn't have it, he just kept saying that Regina always lets him have what he wants. Things came to a head a few weeks ago when Jamie refused to come home after spending the day with Regina. He said, "I want to stay with Grandma. She's nicer to me." I was devastated. I tried to talk to Regina about it, but she brushed it off, saying that Jamie was just being a typical kid and that I shouldn't worry, but it's hard not to. I've also noticed Jamie's behavior has changed in other subtle ways. He's become more defiant, often ignoring my requests or doing the exact opposite of what I ask. Simple things like asking him to clean up his toys or put on his shoes have become daily battles. It's like he's testing me constantly, and it's exhausting. Another thing that has really bothered me is that Jamie has started making comparisons between me and Regina. He'll say things like, "Grandma's house is more fun," or "Grandma lets me watch whatever I want." It feels like he's being pitted against me, and I don't know how to handle it. I've tried to talk to Sebastian about it, but he just thinks I'm overreacting again. I tried to spend more one-on-one time with Jamie to rebuild our bond. We went to the park, baked cookies, and even had movie nights with his favorite films. But no matter what I did, it felt like Regina's influence was overshadowing my efforts. It had gotten to the point where I dreaded leaving him with her, but I didn't have many other options for childcare at that time. I didn't think much of it and thought that this was just part of growing up. But about a week ago, he told me that he misses his new mommy. I was surprised and asked him who his new mom was, but he didn't say anything and ran back to his room. I was worried about his reaction, so I did something that I'm not proud of. I read his diary, and in that, I found that the new mom he had been talking about was Alicia. He had written in his diary that Alicia is so nice. She gives me candies, but Dad says we can't tell Mommy or she will not let us see Alicia. I was heartbroken, not only because my son was calling someone else the new Mommy, or that my mother-in-law had let my son see Alicia and broke my boundaries, but that they had made my son lie to me. There were several other pages where he had talked about Alicia. He wrote about how she took him to the park, bought him toys, and even taught him how to ride a bike. These were all things I wanted to experience with him, and it felt like they were being stolen from me. I confronted Sebastian about it that night. He was defensive at first, saying that Jamie must have misunderstood things and that he never meant to go behind my back. But the diary entries were clear, and there was no denying that he had crossed the line. He admitted that he had taken Jamie to see Alicia a few times, thinking it wouldn't hurt since Jamie seemed to like her. He didn't understand how much it hurt me to be kept in the dark and undermined. I felt betrayed, not just by Sebastian, but by Regina as well. She had clearly been facilitating these visits, knowing full well that I wouldn't approve. It was like she didn't respect my role as Jamie's mother or my right to set boundaries for our family. I called her out on it and she just shrugged it off, saying that she was just trying to keep everyone happy. Jamie's diary entries also revealed that Regina had been telling him that Alicia was like a second mom to him. No wonder he was so confused and acting out. He didn't know who to listen to or how to reconcile the conflicting messages he was getting from the adults in his life. It was heartbreaking to think about the confusion and stress he must have been feeling. I was angry. I waited for Sebastian to come home, and when he did, I asked him about this. He tried to deny it, but the proof was right there, so he couldn't. He said that Alicia just accidentally visited the house when he and Jamie were there, and Mom just innocently told Jamie that Alicia was his new mommy, and it stuck. He claimed that he had only met Alicia once, but then I showed Jamie's diary to him, and his lies unraveled. He said, "So what if Alicia met him? This was all a mistake." He insisted, but I told him this wasn't a mistake. I set a boundary and he broke it. I told him to get out of the house, and he left and stayed with his parents for the night. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with all the emotions and thoughts. How could he do this? How could he put Jamie in such a confusing situation? I felt like my trust had been shattered, and I didn't know how we could move forward from this. I kept rereading Jamie's diary entries, each one breaking my heart a little more. The next morning, Regina called me. She was upset that I had kicked Sebastian out and said I was overreacting. She kept defending Alicia, saying that she was just trying to be nice to Jamie and that I was making a big deal out of nothing. I told her that she had no right to go behind my back and that she had completely disregarded my feelings and boundaries. She tried to argue, but I hung up on her. I was done with her meddling. He came home the next day and tried to talk to me, but I told him that I was done with him and that I wanted to leave him. He said that he couldn't believe I would say that over such a small thing. I told him it was not a small thing. The day our son was born, he picked Alicia over me, and now he has done it again. I'm not going to stand for this. I told him that he should take his stuff and move out, and that we would contact the lawyers and figure out the custody and everything else. He started crying and begging me not to do this. He kept saying how much he loved me and Jamie and how he never meant to hurt us and that he couldn't imagine his life without us. But I was really done. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, and deep sadness. I had given him so many chances to prove that he could prioritize our family, but he kept letting me down. It wasn't just about Alicia, it was about the pattern of disrespect and dishonesty. Every time he chose her over me, it felt like a knife to my heart. The day Jamie was born was supposed to be one of the happiest days of our lives, but instead, it was marred by his absence and the realization that he would always put Alicia first. Sebastian kept insisting he didn't mean to hurt me, that he was just trying to be a good friend to Alicia, but that wasn't the point. The point was that he consistently disregarded my feelings and the boundaries we had set together. His actions showed me that he didn't respect me or our marriage. As he sat there crying, I felt a strange sense of calm. I knew this was the right decision for me and Jamie. We couldn't keep living in this toxic cycle. Jamie deserved to grow up in a home where his parents respected and valued each other, not one where there was constant tension and deceit. I started packing his things while he watched, still pleading with me to reconsider. He said he would cut Alicia off completely, that he would do anything to make things right, but I couldn't believe him anymore. His promises meant nothing when his actions repeatedly betrayed me. I told him I needed space and time to heal, and that meant he had to leave. As I packed, memories of our relationship flooded my mind. The good times, the laughter, the dreams we had shared. It was hard to let go, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't keep sacrificing my happiness and self-respect for someone who didn't value them. Sebastian finally left, taking only a suitcase of his essentials. I told him I would arrange a time for him to come back and get the rest of his things when Jamie wasn't around. I wanted to shield our son from as much of this pain as possible. The house felt eerily quiet after he left. I sat down and took a deep breath, trying to process everything. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I felt a sense of relief knowing I had made a decision that was best for me and Jamie. I called my best friend and told her what had happened. She was supportive, reminding me that I deserved to be with someone who truly valued and respected me. A few hours later, I started getting calls from everyone. Regina also called me and told me that I was making a big mistake. But I told her that this had nothing to do with her and that she should stay out of it and that she is to blame for this as well. And I hung up on her. As I sat there, I couldn't help but replay the events in my head. I knew deep down that I needed to stand my ground, but the doubt crept in. What if I was overreacting? What if I was breaking up our family over something that could be fixed? This was making me question myself even more. Regina had always been a strong presence in Sebastian's life, and I wondered if I was wrong to push her away too. My phone buzzed with texts and voicemails from Sebastian, his parents, and even a few of our mutual friends. Most of them were urging me to reconsider, saying things like, "He made a mistake, give him another chance," or "Think about Jamie, he needs both of his parents." It was overwhelming, and I felt like I was being pulled in a million different directions. One message stood out, though. It was from my best friend. She reminded me of all the times I had confided in her about feeling second to Alicia, about how lonely and hurt I felt when Sebastian would dismiss my feelings. She said, "You need to do what's best for you and Jamie. Don't let anyone guilt you into staying in a situation that's damaging to your well-being." But as I am sitting alone in this house, I can't help but feel confused. Am I making a big mistake doing this? Am I taking this too far? What do you guys think? I would love to know. Update 1. Hi everyone. I know it's only been a day since I made the post, but I have a few updates. Things have become so much clearer now. So I had packed essentials for Sebastian, but his iPad was left behind. Normally I wouldn't have snooped, but I wasn't the same person I was a few days ago, so I opened his messenger apps and checked his chats. And surprise, surprise, I found texts between him and Alicia. And guess this, the texts went back years. As it turns out, he never stopped talking to her. I spent all night going through these texts. I found messages that dated back to shortly after Jamie was born. The messages were heart-wrenching and eye-opening. Sebastian would tell Alicia how much he missed her and that he wished things could be different. He even expressed regret about not being able to openly see her, saying things like, "I hate that I have to keep you a secret from Chloe." In one conversation, Sebastian mentioned, "Sometimes I think about how easy things would be if we were together. I know it's complicated, but I can't help but wish." It was devastating to read how he had been holding on to feelings for Alicia, all while pretending to be committed to our family. The text also revealed how frequently they talked. They had long chats about their lives, their struggles, and their dreams. Alicia would often send Sebastian updates about her life, including personal details and complaints about her own romantic relationships. Sebastian would respond with supportive messages, sometimes even giving her relationship advice. It was clear that their bond went way beyond just friendship. One message from Alicia was particularly painful. She said, "I know we can't be together, but I really cherish what we have. It's been hard without you." To which Sebastian responded, "I feel the same way. I wish things were different. I hate that I can't be more open about how I feel." It felt like a punch to the gut to see how he had been emotionally invested in her while our marriage was falling apart. There were also messages where Sebastian would complain about me, venting to Alicia about how difficult things were at home and how he felt trapped. It was a painful realization that he had been sharing intimate details about our marriage with someone else. Reading those messages made me feel incredibly betrayed. It was like he had been living a double life, sharing his frustrations with Alicia instead of working through them with me. I spent hours crying and trying to process everything I had found. The betrayal cut so deep, and it was hard to believe that someone I trusted so completely could be so dishonest. I felt like all the pain and confusion I had been feeling over the past few years suddenly made sense. The consistent pattern of neglect and dishonesty was finally laid bare. There is no more confusion in my head. I now know that I need to leave this man. He doesn't value me, and he doesn't respect me or my wishes. Update 2. Hi everyone. I know it's been a month, but I've been figuring out a lot of things. I didn't confront Sebastian about the messages I had found right away. In the meantime, I hired movers to take his stuff to his mother's house where he had been staying. The day they arrived, I got a call from Sebastian, but I didn't pick up. A few hours later, he showed up at my door, crying and asking me how I could do this and that he deserved a second chance. And this was my moment. So I took a deep breath and decided to lay it all out. I told him about everything I found on his iPad, how he had never stopped talking to Alicia, how his secret conversations with her revealed his true feelings. I described the messages where he talked about missing her, regretting that he had to keep her a secret, and feeling trapped in our marriage. I made sure he knew I had read it all, and that I wasn't going to be manipulated by his pleas. I told him, "You've been living a double life, and now you can be with Alicia. You've always wanted this, and now you're free to pursue it without hiding your true feelings." His face went pale, and he started begging and pleading. He said things like, "I didn't mean for things to go this far," and "I'm so sorry, please don't do this." He even tried to guilt trip me, saying, "Think about Jamie, you're breaking up our family." Seeing him like that, crying and desperate, was a mix of pain and oddly satisfying feelings. I felt like I had finally taken control of the situation and stood up for myself. I reminded myself of all the times he had let me down and all the broken promises. I told him I needed him to leave and shut the door in his face. It was a harsh decision, but it felt like the right thing to do. I won't lie, It felt good seeing him cry like that. It was like a form of justice for all the times he had made me feel worthless. The next day, I started the process of formalizing the separation. I contacted a lawyer to discuss the legalities of the divorce and custody arrangements. I wanted to make sure everything was handled properly so that there wouldn't be any issues down the line. I was determined to get everything sorted out as smoothly as possible. Sebastian continued to call and text, trying to apologize and convince me to reconsider. He sent messages like, "I'm willing to do anything to make this right," and "Please, let's talk about this one more time." I didn't respond. I needed space and time to heal, and I wasn't ready to have any more conversations with him. I felt that every time I engaged with him, it was a step backward, and I really need to move forward. So I told him to never text me or call me again, and contact my lawyer if he wants to say anything. After that, I blocked him. Update 3. Hey everyone, let me start by saying thank you for all the support and help during this tough time. Your advice and kind words have really helped me navigate through this mess. I'm still in the process of getting divorced, but Sebastian has finally given up on trying to win me back. It's been a long and difficult journey, but it feels like we're moving towards a resolution. Things with Jamie have been challenging. He's still trying to understand what's going on. He's been asking questions like, "Why isn't Daddy coming home?" And "When can we see Daddy again?" It breaks my heart to see him confused and upset. I've been doing my best to explain things to him in a way that's appropriate for his age. I tell him that sometimes grown-ups need to live in different places, but that doesn't change how much we love him. Hopefully, things will get better with time. Thank you again for all your support and advice. It's been a huge comfort to know that I'm not alone in this. If anyone has gone through a similar experience, I'd love to hear how you manage the transition for your kids and yourself. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.